What's up, guys? This is John Vickers, the owner of Explosive Performance Academy and creator of the 5-Star Formula. And this is the Developing the Elite Athlete podcast. Now, I've got a special guest on today. I got TJ Kelley from Inside Prep Sports, which was created in 2006. TJ, how are you? How's everything going?
It's a beautiful Tuesday morning here in Michigan.
Yeah. I'm glad it's finally starting to warm up here a little bit, right?
Yeah, no, I do. We don't want too much of a good thing too early. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. You're gonna get a little hot, a little quick.
Right. Well, we don't want to use up all of our good days before Labor Day.
Exactly. All right. So TJ, so we've known each other for a while now. Like we're not super close, but like we've interacted a lot, and I've helped out with the Michigan Elite 25 camp a few times. But we met back in the day when I was at Hype, and I think that's when the Michigan Elite 25 camp started.
Mhm.
Um, talk to us a little bit more about the Inside Prep Sports and what that's about.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to say it kind of came along in a fluke, but sometimes there are blessings in being laid off from $7.50 jobs, getting involved in radio over 20 years ago. One thing wound up leading to another, and then I started writing. Just to stay involved in sports. I was producing high school sports shows, and I kind of took a liking to writing about basketball. Following it, I'm at very. I played a lot of sports in high school, but and never really focused on going to college. You know what I'm saying? I was more of I was like, I'm about to golf for free and stuff like that. But anyways, one thing wound up leading to another, and then Inside Prep Sports started in the spring of 2006, and here we are in spring of 2013, and things have gone well. It's been great to expand every year with my recruiting service, where I help college coaches recruit high school players and vice versa. It's wonderful to watch the maturation of the process, as they say. And now I'm actually seeing kids that I've seen in high school and their children come along. So it's always been fun, and seeing gray hairs and stuff like that pop up on guys in their early or mid 30s and late 30s.
Yeah, absolutely. It's crazy how the evolution happens, right? I'm starting to see some guys that I worked with personally, that I trained, that their kids are starting to get a little bit older, and it's almost that time to start working with their kids. I get it for sure. So what sports are you typically working with?
Basketball. I like the controlled environment. You know, uh, Outside of football, outside of like hockey or baseball, basketball is one of the sports where I found myself, as far as radio, that's where my main influence was, or that's that was being asked of me. And so, yeah, I've really enjoyed, and being able to meet you, being able to meet a lot of guys. Tim McCormick, obviously, with the Michigan Elite 25. We're Our camp this year is in August 10th and 11th at Matt Ishbia's place at Wholesale Mortgage. So getting to meet the owner of the Phoenix Suns, being able to meet Dan Gilbert back in the day. When we first started the Michigan Elite 25, so get to meet a lot of people, and then obviously the basketball stars that go along with it. But like you're saying, so much of it's wonderful to see, guys wind up growing up who you helped, or you maybe not even help, but just to see, them evolve from young men into grown men, and then carry on the cycle and tradition of sports. So yeah, you're definitely a big part of helping the circle go around.
Yeah, it's like I said, that evolution, it's just wild to see that. And then, I mean, even when you look at some of these kids, like for me, I've worked with kids that are like start out 7, 8 years old. And I've been in this, like I've owned my own business for 8 years now. And those 7, 8, 9-year-old kids that I was working with, they're now going to college, and they're like, there's one kid that I started working with when he was 9 years old. Now he's signed with Iowa, and he's it's crazy because he was like pretty much a little snot-nosed kid, and now
Right.
he's 6'5", 240-pound man at 18 years old.
Right.
So, it's just that evolution it's pretty crazy, and even more so when you were working with an older kid that is now an adult throughout that time, right?
For sure. For sure. And like you're saying, like when kids are 9 years old, like you, I don't know, you can see kids that are just that much better, or they're better athletes, especially when it really starts popping off at like 13, 14, 15, 16 years old, and it hits at different times. I mean, we've seen it where, let's say this. There are a lot of times when I see kids that are 14 years old, then they'll go work out with you, and then they'll come back a year later, and all of a sudden layups are dunks. There's a lot of things that they're rebounding at the rim or above the rim. And obviously, the strength and conditioning, that you're involved in, and just the agility. It's a huge factor in watching these kids. And yeah, it's to say at that age of time, you can see the passion for a lot of kids, and this is what I want to do. I think everybody wants to be, a pro athlete. A lot of guys say, "Hey, I remember me. I wanted to play for the Tigers before I was even thinking about varsity baseball." You know what
Uh-huh.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so you can't put the cart before the horse, but it's great to see the evolution and everything.
Yeah, for sure, same thing. I remember growing up, all I wanted to do was play pro football. Like,
Hmm.
that's yeah, that was
Without a doubt, that was the dream. That was the dream.
yeah.
You know.
I wanted to be like Mike, but I mean, that wasn't gonna happen. I grew to be
Yeah,
6 foot, and I wasn't a good basketball player, but yeah,
for sure, for
yeah,
sure. Yeah, I looked at the cards. I looked at my parents who are vertically challenged, and I said, you know what, I can be a demon on the ice playing hockey. I can play baseball. At playing football, I could do it. I was, back in the 20th century. I mean, we used to grab a football and take shirts off and stuff like that, and use that for the end zones. In some random field.
yeah,
And so yeah, playing football, never playing organized football, but yeah, played organized basketball and stuff like that. But it allowed me, and I was fortunate to have great coaches. Some guys that I still see now. And I think that the most important thing about youth sports is that kids are having fun while they're doing it, and at the same time saying, "Hey, this is what you can do," and because you get to see things over time. Like I remember kids. I was growing up and playing baseball, and they were throwing curveballs at 12 years old, 13 years old. Then they bust their arm, and they'd be out for 2 years.
mhm,
And this is before some of the crazy surgeries. I mean, Tommy John was, relatively new at the time.
yep,
That's her, Tommy John surgery. But yeah, but then you also got to see guys that wound up growing over the summer, or guys that were really that committed and then put, time in the weight room. I think we all did that. Some guys were more serious, than others, and those were the guys that really took off in playing. But yeah, I love playing high school sports, youth sports. If there was anything that was involved, if anybody called, I wanted to be there, and I wanted to partake. I wish I'd have played lacrosse, to be honest.
yeah, 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 same here, same here. It just started coming around when I was, like, leaving high school. Like, they were talking
Mhm,
about doing club sports at my school, but, um, it didn't happen while I was there. So
mhm.
so when it comes to evaluating talent, like, how young are you kind of how young are you looking at guys and being like, all right, like, they've got something?
I I do not watch middle school basketball. Um, I grew up with kids. Even I wound up winning a Southfield Youth Basketball Championship back in the day, back in the '80s, if I can say. And some of those guys that were on that basketball team, or that I played against, are still the same height. I think that it's real misleading to say that 11-year-old, or the best 11-year-old, the best 12-year-old, the best 13-year-old. I'll say this: the vast majority of the time, I don't know how many. Let's say this: is if you go back as an adult, you say, "Wow, that kid is 11 years old and he's the best." The vast majority of the time, that kid is nowhere near the best 3 or 4 years down the road, 14 or 15 years old. On So for me, evaluating, it's as they start growing, you start seeing more of a maturation process rather than the kid that's just bigger than everybody else who's 11 years old and he happens to be 5'10", which is huge at 5 foot at 11 years old.
Yeah.
But 15, 16 years old, unless you're just a dynamic guard, which more than likely you're not going to be just because they're saying, hey, you're a big, you know, it's great to see kids that have passion that also have size 17, 18 shoes because that means that they're probably going to be 6'10", 6'11". They already love the sport. So many times we see bigs that just get thrown into sports. And it doesn't matter what sport it is, where they're just saying, all right, this is what you're going to do. Hey, your dad played this sport. This is what you're going to do. And do they really have passion for it? I've seen 7-footers. I've seen some of the most talented kids in the country that really don't have that drive and that passion. And so, yeah, it's more of like, all right, I'm here. I'm going to go get my education and then I'm going to be done. I'm just going to go in the corporate world or whatever they decide doing. So I try not to put the cart before the horse when you talk about, evaluating younger kids, because what do you tell a parent that said, when you tell them, hey, you're 11 or 12 years old, you can go to Michigan or you can go to Michigan State. And all of a sudden, and no offense, but I mean, you're going, U of M Dearborn is more fitting for, that level of athlete.
Yeah.
And so it is what it is, and you don't want to break hearts and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, hey, you don't want to say, hey, I got the first 3 winning lottery tickets for the Powerball or whatever else. And then, you bomb on the next 3 or 4. Well, you pretty much wound up with $2 or nothing. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. But I mean, there's a point where you do have to realize like there are some limitations, right? Limitations in
mhm.
size, limitations in athleticism. Um, I know for me, like I grew up playing football, like football is my main sport, but when it comes to athleticism and this, it, basketball is just different. I've said this for a long time.
Mhm.
Basketball is just different compared to everything else because if you're 6 foot, like you're a guard and you have to be exceptionally fast, like blazing fast.
Laterally,
Yes.
vertically,
Yes.
and tough as nails, mentally tough, you
Yeah.
know?
Like, but 6 foot, like on the football field, like, I mean, you're not going to see a lineman that's 6 foot, like an offensive lineman that's 6 foot, really. But um, other positions you're going to hockey. I mean, you get all types of
Yeah.
variations of size. Baseball, same thing. But basketball, like, I mean, you're 6'3" and you're a small guard, right?
Right. Right.
So
No, yeah, go ahead.
no, you go ahead. You go ahead.
So I'll even say it like this, like, let me give you an example. I want to know how many guards are 6'2" in Division I basketball that can't dunk a ball. You know what I'm saying? Just to kind of give like kids a heads up. All
Mhm.
right, this is like the bare minimum. That's great that you can shoot the ball, but it's very rare that you can't dunk the ball and you're not somewhat laterally quick. You're not laterally quick. You're quick on the ground, going north to south, up and down the court, but you don't have the verticality to, the leaping ability. And I
Yeah.
think that it's one of those things. I was a name that came up not long. I was talking with some of my buddies. I don't know if you remember Adam Archuleta, who played
Yeah.
at Arizona State. Then he
Yep.
wanted to go on and play in
He played
for
with
the
the
St.
Rams.
Louis Rams.
Yep.
Uh, but they had to reinvent him. And he said, I need to develop quads. You know what I'm saying? To help with just his athleticism. And you're talking about an All-American that said, you know what, I'm not athletic enough to play in the NFL.
Mhm.
And this was one of the best players, in the mid 90s, late 90s and stuff like that. You're talking about back in the day. But yeah, but I kind of look at it like how like athleticism has a lot to do with it. Even let's say this with size. You can be a 7 foot, 240-pound kid 30 years ago was a Division I player. You're probably going to be playing at Michigan, or you're probably going to be playing in the Big Ten.
Mhm.
Now they're looking at it like, you know what? Can he keep up?
Mhm.
Can he get up and down north and south with other guys that are in my league? And if you can't, you're going to get dusted. Yeah. Let's say this: if you're playing for like Baylor, for example, the Baylor Bears, they need 7 foot guys. They can go from the key out to the 3-point line in the corner and close out on that defender.
Mhm.
And if you can't do that in a certain amount of time, then they automatically cross you off the list.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And
yeah,
and it's wild. And I think that that's one thing where athleticism, and not only that, you talk about with basketball, especially how many guys now are that's 7 foot. I mean, Kevin Durant, is one of the guys that really started setting the new age standard.
yep,
Back in the day, I guess you could say like George Gervin, who's 6'8", but highly skilled and be able to play the two or the three.
yeah,
Now that's almost like a regular position, regular size and stuff like that. So
yeah,
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 size is one of those things. And not only that, mentally you have to get over, all right, I'm going to go up, and if you're 6 foot, I'm going to go up against somebody that is, 3, 4, 5 inches taller than me on a regular basis. And I have to go out there and dominate,
yeah, yeah.
you know?
It's just different, right? It's just different. And I even like I'm gonna throw a name out there, Hunter Dickinson, right? Like
Mhm. Yep.
he had a great career with Michigan, but athletically, like he just isn't there for the next level. Like he'll play
Right.
overseas, right? But NBA, I don't know if he's going to get a sniff of the NBA. I'm sure he'll get a little sniff, but it's just his athleticism isn't there. He can't
Right.
run, he can't jump, he can shoot, but it's just athletically he's just not there. But he's 7 foot 240, right?
Right. And so I would say to Hunter Dickerson or players like players in that mold, you have to find out what you can do best.
Mhm,
And like I can bring up like a Bill Lambier. Bill Lambier, he used to set goals. Hey, I'm going to lead the league in free throw shooting this year. I'm going to lead the league in rebounding. I think he did both, or was amongst the top two or three. In certain categories where he said, I'm going to dominate on this. But he was also one of the nastiest dudes out there. And
mhm.
so he just went out there and said, you know what? I'm going to be the tough guy. I'm going to be the guy that everybody wants to hate. And my teammates are going to love me. Pistons fans are going to love me. But Hunter Dickinson, hey, if he puts on, 40 pounds of muscle, you know what I'm saying? And just goes out there and just a bruiser, you know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? I think that that's where he might be able to fit in. But yeah, again, athleticism, you go back 25 years ago, Hunter Dickinson's probably, he's a top 5 pick,
yeah,
but now, you've got guys that are, and that's what I'm saying about like guys that are, I call them baby giraffes, bigs.
yeah,
You see them when they're smaller and stuff like that, but they have to get out on the Serengeti and they have to learn how to run and they have to learn how to do a lot of things quickly to survive.
yep,
And when they do survive, then you get to see a smooth, graceful, uh, a basketball player. You know what I'm saying? But
for
yeah,
sure.
it goes down to evolution, and Biggs gets to write their story a little bit longer than a lot of us vertically challenged guys. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So when you are evaluating these guys, these high school guys, what are you truly looking for?
uh, looking for obviously I always look for the obvious. I mean those are there. The size, athleticism. But then you start breaking it down. Well, all right, this kid can shoot it. All right, well he's made some open threes. I want to see how he does it contested. I want to see how he shoots it, off the dribble. I want to see how he moves well, how he moves off the ball. Is he finding ways to get open? Is he taking advantage of the three threes that he just hit for a quick cut to the basket and a back door for two and a layup. So in looking for basketball IQ, guys that really know how to play. If you know that you have 3 fouls and it's the end of the quarter and there's no stoppage of clock for you to get out of the game, are you still going out there and playing over aggressively, or are you letting your teammates know, hey, we're going to need to communicate here, because if I pick up my 4th foul, that's just going to put me in jeopardy and our team in jeopardy of not playing later on in the game. And that might not be any fault, of the coach. Sometimes things just happen, but I think I look for players that can be coaches on the court, and hopefully they'll be coaches in the future. I remember once telling Draymond Green, that he would be I thought that he would be a better coach than a basketball player. And this is when he was in college.
Wow.
He's going to be a Hall of Fame basketball player. Will he go in the front office? Will he go into, whatever pregame show or whatever it might be? yeah, will he become a coach? I could see him doing all three of those things. But I think that his basketball IQ was so set apart. And you look at a guy, I think you've worked with Cassius Winston in the past. Cassius Winston, being one of those guys where you just have to be that much smarter than everybody else, but you really still need, the things that are glaring that stand out, but then at the end of the day, to do the deep dive, you have to start asking the guys that are around them all the time. You have to start asking their coaches. You have to start going to their games. Maybe, sometimes unannounced, they go sit in the corner, be the fly on the wall in the game,
Yeah.
just to see how, hey, are you playing as hard on offense as you are on defense. And there are a lot of guys out there that are phenomenal high school basketball scorers, but they find themselves being better defenders when they get to college, just because their shot might not be as consistent, but they find in themselves, wow, I can be elite in doing this, something that I've never knew that I had. And if this keeps me on the court, like who doesn't play sports and not want to play? Like honestly, I mean, you can go back to middle school. I were on Little League for me. I remember being 9 years old, and I remember my first time being in organized sports and being put in right field. And I
Mm.
was like, this is the worst place in the world. You know what I'm saying? I'm never going to let this happen. And so much of it is how much does the kid want it, and it's not so much the parents. The parents allowed avenues as far as going to develop as far with training, as far as making sure that they can get to the gym and doing stuff like that. But when you get to 13, 14, 15 years old and you can start getting around on your own, you've got a bike or do something else. I think that is the initiative that you have to take, on your own. I'm not saying go be Dick Butkus trying to tackle trees and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
at the same time, you got to find that inner fire that says, hey, this is what I want to do. And those are the steps to becoming, elite and Division I players, or just playing college basketball in general.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, playing college basketball isn't a bad thing either. Like you're going to school
No.
for free. So like if you have if you have that ability and that passion to push yourself up to that point, maybe not beyond that point, up to that point, like that's going to be that's going to make a big difference for you financially and
Mhm.
also for your parents if your parents are going to pay for school. So
Without a
um
doubt.
yeah, I mean that's great stuff. That's you just gave some gold to the audience there. So that's
No, and I'll say this: if put in the work that you do in the classroom that you put in the gym to become great. There are far more athletic scholarships or academic scholarships than there are athletic scholarships. You can go to Division III in basketball, and let's say you're going to Adrian College and you have a 2.5 GPA, and your parents are you're in a mid major, or excuse me, middle class neighborhood and stuff like that, and your parents are doing pretty well. Well, you're going to pay full amount for that.
yeah,
Yeah, you're going to play college basketball. At the same time, if you go in and you're a 4.0 student and you're in the same situation economically, then all of a sudden they start talking, and you know what? You get to save yourself and your parents a lot of money on college tuition. And I always tell kids this, especially, and it's so great to see them when they're graduating, especially right now. They say, "Wow, you're graduated! Congratulations!" A lot of kids had an extra year with COVID, but you're debt free. You have a degree. You are winning in life right now.
mhm,
Don't drop the ball. Keep the ball rolling. And it's the same thing. I see kids that they'll put all the work in for high school to get to a certain level. Now they're in college. Well, don't tell me that you work for from 9 years old to 18 and all of a sudden, hey, I've made it, and you're going to sit back and you're going to relax. You know what I'm saying? That's for when you're beyond 30, 35, 40 years old, even 25 years old. At least give yourself a chance to be great at what you want to do. And again, there are steps. Go be great in high school. Go be great in college. If you have the opportunity to play in college or play an opportunity to be a pro, go do that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Hey, there are plenty of things that you can do, after the ball is rolling. But once you dedicate yourself, you've got to dedicate yourself, into doing this full time. You know what? And set goals for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Hey, I know that I'm not going to be a pro at 12 years old, but I know I can do 100 push-ups in a day. I know that I can get my 40 time or whatever else I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Where you can test yourself on your own. I remember as a baseball player, there's a ball, or excuse me, there was an old school with a brick wall, and I literally used to take a golf ball and I would throw it against the wall in practice going from left to right. But I wouldn't, but learning from the Dominicans and stuff like that, I wouldn't use a glove. I would just use my left hand, like
Yeah,
palm the left hand. I was like, well, if I'm going to be, the next great shortstop, this is what I need to do. You got to train like the best. You know what I'm saying? And not sell yourself short. At the end of the day, that's what I'm saying. So,
for
yeah.
sure. For sure. And that, I mean, that's more great information, right? Like I one thing that we've added into my program is setting goals, setting long-term goals, yearly goals, quarterly goals, monthly, weekly, and daily to really break things down step by step. A lot of really people don't know how to truly set goals and actually achieve those goals. Um,
Mhm.
like a lot of people will just set goals and then just kind of sit them and hope they appear, right?
Right.
But you have to
Right.
take action. You have to execute. You have to actually make things happen. It's not going to just appear. And
Right. No, it's initiative. It's dedication. And say, let's say this. If I'm to break it down as simple, at one time, none of us knew 2 plus 2.
mm,
But if you want to learn more than 2 plus 2, if you want to learn how, well, I want to get a Fago and a honey bun. You know what I'm saying? How do I go about getting that? You know what
mm,
I'm saying? As a kid, do I always want my parents going out there and saying that, or are you going to try to, get some side hustles and stuff like that? Whether it be asking your parents, hey, you know what? I know you needed to wash the deck. I'll go out there and scrub it for you. And that's something that you can do at 10 or 11 years old.
yeah,
Your parents will say, hey, well, they're going to underpay you for sure. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? If you think the NCAA is bad, yeah, go do some chores for your parents. They'd be like,
yeah,
I used to mow the grass for 75 cents. You know,
yeah,
then
yeah,
I moved out to the suburbs and I learned I can make $10. But
exactly.
but it's one of those things where, yeah, you talk about setting goals. It's the little things, like, and that's what I'm talking about. Even like doing push-ups. You know what I'm saying? Hey,
Mm,
if you're 10 years old, can you do 25 push-ups? You know what I'm saying? Work yourself up where you're doing 50 push-ups in a day. It's only going to take a little bit of time. And by the time you're 11 or 12 years old, you build it into your routine and you're doing 100 push-ups in the morning, you're doing 100 push-ups at night. And you know what? That costs absolutely nothing. When you're watching the games on TV, break down and do your push-ups, do your sit-ups. I think that taking advantage of your core, I mean, especially in what you're doing, it's not so much the push-ups, it's about how strong you are from your torso up to your shoulders. You know what I'm
absolutely,
saying? And
absolutely.
because that's going to be able to generate, and not only, let's say this, is going to be able to generate a lot of athletic production, but it's also going to be able to generate uh, just healthy eating habits. You know what
Mm,
I'm saying? Where you're going into that, and it's only going to help you further down the road. So you'll be able to say, "Hey, I'm happy I did all those sit-ups when I was a kid, because now here I am, I'm 80 years old, and I have that routine that was built into." You know what I'm saying? Go
ab-
do some stretching on a regular basis. You can't limber up until you decide that you're gonna. You know what I'm saying? Like, guys, you got to actually stretch. Never, not very many guys that are able to walk in the gym and immediately be able to dunk the ball. You
yeah,
know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like those YouTube videos that we see, that's few and far in between.
yeah, yep, absolutely. And it's all about creating those habits, right? Set the goals, create habits that are based around those goals, and execute them on a daily basis. Like
Yep.
it's really a simple process. People
I
like to
mean,
complicate it, but
yeah, it's like making your bed. You know what I'm saying? You wake up in the morning. If you have your routine, there are certain things you start the day off. One thing, Tim McCormick,
yeah,
11-year NBA veteran. We can see him on ESPN. We can see him with Pistons games. But one thing that he talks about is, and there are other people that do, very successful people. If you start the morning by making your bed, you just accomplished something.
yep,
You go brush your teeth. Now you're on level 2. You
yep,
know what I'm saying?
yep,
And like, why be stuck on that one level? But by the end of the day, you go out there and you're seeing, you can look around, make yourself a list, and you're saying, all right, I need to go do this, I need to go do that. And by the end of the day, you're seeing yourself as a very productive, and one thing is going to, as a very productive person, but one thing is going to lead to another, where you say, all right, well, I've done this and I've done this, and now I can go ahead and make this extra step and stuff like that, rather than you don't learn to swim in a day.
yep,
You know what I'm saying? There are a lot of things that we don't, that it takes, and again, being in a microwave society, it's sometimes you got to use the oven,
Yep.
and put
Yep.
it on 250. Go have the best roasts aren't made, in 15 minutes.
Exactly.
I don't care what they say with the pressure cookers and all that stuff. I wanted mine in a crock pot for 8 hours.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely, absolutely. And that's what the social media era has caught,
Mhm.
right? Everybody expects things to happen right away. That's the expectation now, but I mean, it's a process.
Yeah,
It,
it's very much so.
so yeah, awesome. That I mean, TJ, this has been awesome, man. I appreciate your time. I appreciate all this. Um, where where can parents, where can athletes connect with you to get more information about your recruiting service? Like how do people get in contact with you and um yeah, how do people get in contact with you?
I would say the best way would be go to Scoop IPS. That's inside. IPS stands for Inside Prep Sports.
Okay.
Just follow me. I mean, if you can send me a DM, my emails are available. Um, I've kind of been fortunate. I used to have a website. I'm very much in the thoughts. I still have a website, and I'm kind of teetering on whether to make it public or not. But yeah, that's until then, you'll be able to find me on Twitter. But yeah, hopefully, let's see how this website goes. I've been writing privately for college coaches for the last 4 or 5 years, and it's one of those things where people start reading their own clippings and all that stuff, and I just saw kind of a trend, and I wasn't a big fan of it. Saying that kids, well, TJ wrote this about me, it must be good. You know what I'm saying? And then they stop working and stuff like that. So sometimes it's almost like to keep things in a like kind of like Christmas or Santa Claus. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You'll never
yeah,
know what treats you're gonna get, gifts you're gonna get.
yeah, yeah. I get that. That makes sense for sure to want to kind of keep that on the down low just so they keep working, right?
Yeah. Right, right, right.
Cool.
So, well, I
Cool.
greatly appreciate your time today. Hey, good morning. Hey, go enjoy. Hopefully, you have some time to go enjoy this beautiful Tuesday here in the Detroit area.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, TJ. Remember to follow him on Twitter, Scoop IPS. And I look forward to hopefully you get some people from this and they connect with you and we can just move forward from there.
Without a doubt. All
All
right,
right.
John.
All right.
All right,
Have a
take
great
care.
one,
Appreciate
TJ.
what you do, man.
Absolutely. Thank you.